So you want to become a World Cup champion. Millions watching, your name etched into your country's history, a medal that maybe 23 people per generation, per nation, ever get to hold. That's the fantasy. Here's what nobody puts in the highlight reel. For a 9-year-old signing with a professional academy today, the odds of even becoming a professional footballer are roughly 1 in 200. And becoming a professional is still nowhere close to winning the World Cup. Only 4% of teenage academy prospects ever reach the top tier of football at all. So today, what it actually takes just to get a professional contract, what most professional salaries actually look like, how tiny the path from professional to World Cup squad really is, and the story of a man once rejected for being too small, who was playing amateur football at 19 and lifted the World Cup 9 years later. Top academies sign children as young as 9 years old. From that moment, the attrition begins immediately. Research tracking academy prospects found that of those signed young, roughly 1 in 200 ever make it to professional football. Widen the lens to teenagers aged 13 to 18, already inside elite academy systems, and only about 4% make it to the top tier, with another 6% settling for lower leagues. The rest, the overwhelming majority, are released. 18, with years of their childhood built entirely around a dream that didn't happen. And it isn't just talent being measured. Studies have found something almost nobody expects. None of the players who went on to turn professional in one major sample were born in the last quarter of the year. And 44% of all academy players were born in January, February, or March, because coaches unconsciously favor kids who are bigger and more developed simply for being born earlier in the school year. Some of the best future players in the world get cut at age 11 for the crime of a late birthday. For the small percentage who do get signed, professional academy life means relocating away from family as young as 12 or 13, training twice a day around school, and living under constant annual review, reselected or released every single year for a decade. Roughly 700 academy players are released by English clubs alone every single summer. By age 21, even among those who signed their first professional contract at 16, the attrition rate is around 75%. And here's what almost nobody accounts for. None of this training guarantees income. It guarantees years of sacrifice with a release clause hanging over every review meeting. Here's the number that should really change how you see this. Professional footballer sounds like one job, but it spans an enormous range. Premier League and La Liga stars can earn $60,000 to $75,000 a week, but most professional footballers on earth aren't playing in those leagues. In Brazil's top flight, average weekly pay is around $6,000. In Japan, about $8,000. And below the very top divisions worldwide, salaries fall off a cliff. Many lower league and semi-professional players earn under $1,000 a week, some effectively nothing at all, treating football as a side income while working other jobs. Being a professional footballer and being financially secure are two completely different achievements, and most players who reach the first never reach the second. Now stack a second funnel on top of the first one. Making a senior professional squad doesn't mean you'll ever be called up to your national team. Being called up to your national team doesn't mean you'll make a World Cup squad. Each country brings a maximum of 26 players, once every 4 years. And making the World Cup squad doesn't mean you'll win it. Of the billions of children who play football worldwide, only 23 players per World Cup, for one country, out of 32 competing nations, get to call themselves champions. Every other academy kid, every other pro, every other capped international, all of it ends without that specific medal.
In 2012, a young defensive midfielder was training with a small amateur club outside Paris called JS Suren. He'd been let go by professional academies for being too short and too slight. When a scout brought him to trial at Arsenal, the club's own manager passed on signing him. He was 21 years old, playing in France's lower divisions, essentially unknown. His name was N'Golo Kanté. Read that again. At an age when many future World Cup winners are already established professionals, Kanté was still fighting for a contract in France's second tier. He signed with Caen in 2013, still far from stardom. Then, in 2015, Leicester City signed him, a club that same season would go on to win the Premier League title at odds of 5,000 to 1, one of the greatest upsets in the history of the sport, with Kanté as one of its defining players. 3 years after nearly being written off entirely by professional football, he moved to Chelsea. And in 2018, 6 years after training with an amateur club outside Paris, N'Golo Kanté started in the World Cup final and helped France defeat Croatia to become world champions. The player once called too small now earns roughly $27 million a year, and the medal from that 2018 final can never be taken away, renegotiated, or released in a summer academy cut. And here's the number that puts the whole thing in perspective. Across the entire history of the World Cup, only around 700-something players have ever started in a final and won. Compare that to the millions of children who lace up boots at academies every single year, all chasing the exact same thing. The players who make it aren't just the most talented, they're the tiny fraction who survived a decade of annual cuts, financial uncertainty, and one specific 4-year window where everything had to align at once. So here's the verdict. Fantasy score, 10 out of 10. There may be no single achievement in sports with more global weight than this one. Reality score, 2 out of 10. Worse odds than almost any other career on this channel. A real risk of years of sacrifice ending in nothing, and a financial reality for most professionals that looks nothing like the headlines. Would I bet my childhood on this path? Not rationally. But N'Golo Kanté wasn't rational either, and he's the one holding the medal. It isn't a career decision, and it was never really about the odds. It's a bet placed by a 9-year-old who has no idea what 1 in 200 even means yet, and once in a generation. For one player out of millions, that bet actually pays off.